So hi everyone, this is Tahir Ekin, and I'm serving as the director for Center for Analytics and Data Science. And I think we started these office hours almost 3 months ago now. This is the third edition. So the objective of these AI Ready office hours is to uh, basically give our community an idea about the resources on our campus, but also provide short presentations about basically emerging and some fundamental topics. So the previous AI Ready Office Hours recordings can be found at the website, and also we can also put it in the chat. But overall, today we have two distinguished speakers, folks that we have been working together. The first speaker would be Dr. Apan Qasem, who is the Associate Chair of Computer Science Professor over there, as well as Associate Director of the Center for Analytics and Data Science. And he'll be talking about how to build a RAG-based system and some of the, I think, fundamentals on RAG and Agentic AI. And our second speaker is Joe Fuller. So he has been basically leading as the liaison between IT and Division of Research and Academic Affairs. And as many of you are aware, university has added a number of AI tools to our toolkit, trying to keep up with times. So I think Joe will provide an overview of the available tools and how each may be utilized with a potential demonstration. Again, we have relatively limited short time, 20, 30 minutes each. And these are topics, obviously, that would require a little bit more if you want to go deeper. So the way that we see this is like the starting point for conversations, and hopefully we will lead you to more resources. And Divya Gangwani, our AI engineer, also has joined us. So in case you have any specific questions that also require hands-on support, she will be also glad to help you or again connect you to resources. Yeah, maybe Apan, you can get started. Thank you for all being here.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you all for being here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about agentic AI and specifically the role that RAGs can play within that system. And then hopefully, my hope is that we can actually build a RAG from scratch in this 30 minutes that we have to talk about, right? That's been allocated here. But I haven't rehearsed this, so if we can't finish it in time, you have my email, and we have QR codes where you can follow up. If you have questions, we can hold another office session or schedule one-on-one meetings as well if you're interested in building your own RAG. Okay, all right. So, and this is what I have planned. I'll talk a little bit about AI agents and RAG and their interplay, what the distinctions, similarities, and the role that they play in LLM response generation. I also want to talk a little bit about the various custom GPT tools that's out there that most of us are familiar with versus the tool that we are presenting, right? This is also a way to build your own custom GPT tool, but it has some advantages and a little bit of disadvantage as well, and we'll talk about that. Then I'll do a quick demo of a virtual TA that I've implemented in my computer architecture class this semester, and then we'll move on to the actual coding and building our RAG, right? So it is a little bit ambitious. We'll see how it goes. All right. So, before we move on, a shout out to our sponsors. This work was supported, the work that we're talking about, this tool, this was supported by NSF under the STEM Clear project, where we're building AI pathways for different disciplines. And in addition to designing curriculum, we're also building some of these AI-supported pedagogical tools, and you'll see one example of that today. We are looking for collaborators, so if you're interested in collaborating with us, either in building curriculum or building tools, please reach out. There's a QR code at the top that will take you to the STEM Clear website, or you can just email me at apan@textstate.edu. All right, so AI agents and RAG, right? So they're both there to kind of accomplish similar objectives, right? They both agents and RAGs, they'll leverage LLM foundations. And the key idea is that they allow us to, they allow the AI systems to connect to external data or current data, okay, in addition to its own knowledge base. That's really the primary purpose. And then, of course, that will allow us to build more reliable systems with reducing hallucinations and so on. So that's, you know, that's kind of given. But there are also certain things that AI agents are good at that RAGs are not, and vice versa. So, for example, AI agents can be proactive, right? And it can actually do tasks for you. It's not that RAGs, you can't design a RAG that can't do that, but AI agents are better at that, right? So you build an agent to find the best airfare for a trip that you are taking in June, right? And it'll do all of that for you. RAGs, on the other hand, are really good at providing this contextualized relevance, right? And so it's really good at reducing hallucinations. Potentially, theoretically, you can actually eliminate all hallucinations if you have a RAG, but then your RAG is probably not going to be very powerful, right? It's just going to look at your RAG database. But so you find that middle ground, but that's really its kind of main goal. And these two threads of research has been going on in parallel for some time, and the use cases have been somewhat separate. That you have AI agents doing its own thing, RAGs doing its own thing, but now we're kind of converging, right? So we have this agentic RAG. That's where we're headed. Well, in the AI world, it's difficult to say that's where we're headed, because as soon as you say something that's going to happen in the future, it's right there, right? So because things move so fast. But so this is kind of the state of the practice where we build agentic RAG models. And the thing is, you combine the autonomous decision making. So that's there. You customize it to do its own thing. But in my opinion, I think the key value that the RAG adds to the agentic AI framework is this reliability, right? So the responses that you're getting, it's from a closed source database, custom database. It's picking up that information so you can control exactly the behavior that you want and how you want to restrict it. Okay. All right. So today, this is, we're hoping to do like a series of office hours covering different aspects of agentic AI. Today, I'm just going to focus on the RAG aspect and how we can leverage RAGs with LLMs. So we'll just take a sort of somewhat deeper look into how RAGs fit into an LLM framework. So this is our LLM. Some user comes in with a prompt that, can you briefly explain how LLMs work? That natural language gets processed and we create an embedding vector, right? So all of these, this natural text is not really what the LLM will see. It will see a mathematical formula, a series of real numbers that represents that prompt. And then the LLM will, query its massive knowledge base, right? That's multimodal, contains trillions of tokens, and it'll do a semantic search. So this database that it's looking at is also encoded, a bunch of embedding vectors, and it'll do a semantic search to see what the prompt that we have, represented by a bunch of numbers, and whether there's a match, okay, or which parts of the database is a close match to that prompt, and it'll retrieve some data. and then it'll do some more processing. So it'll return not one match, but it'll return several matches, right? And so it'll figure out, okay, these are the pieces of information that I have, that's close to this one, this prompt, and so I'll do some processing, and then you format the output, right? Okay, great. So this knowledge base is really large, right? Petabytes, thousands of petabytes of data, trillions of tokens, and that's both a good thing and a bad thing, right? The good thing is that, okay, it has all the world's knowledge, almost, right? So it can, a single LLM knows everything. The bad news is that it's really difficult. It becomes really difficult to update that knowledge base. Even if we are trying to add just a couple of PDFs to that knowledge base, right? You have to kind of recalibrate, or the technical term would be reweight, all of these embedding vectors that you have so that you have a coherent database that can be probed. And that's obviously that involves retraining the model, which can take months of petaflops. So something that we can't do, you and I can't do individually. We have to rely on the big guys like Google or OpenAI to release their next model, a trained model, and use that iteration. Unless Joe finds out a way to beef up our Texas State IT HPC resources, then we would be able to train our own LLMs. But maybe that day is, it's still maybe a few years out. Anyway, so we have to rely on that. And that creates a problem for things like this, right? So if the prompt is something like this, what topics are being covered in Texas State AI Ready Office Hours on March 25th, right? Today, what's going to be there? And it's going to go through that same process. And what it might find is that something like this, right? So thanks to Destiny's clever marketing, so Gemini actually picks up the fact that we're doing an intro to office hours today, Texas State CAD's office hours today. So it has that information, but it really doesn't know the actual contents. It kind of guesses at it that, okay, I'll probably be doing agentic workflow and so on, which is not something that I'm talking about, right? It takes a guess. Because based on the knowledge base. So for things like this, right, what we want to do is we want to add a small piece of information, a relatively small amount of information that the LLM can process, but not have to go through the entire retraining steps, right? And that's where the RAG comes in, right? Retrieval augmented generation. And so in this workflow, what we are doing is the user comes in with that same prompt. And then instead of directly feeding that prompt to the LLM, we run it through what we call a RAG layer, right? And the RAG layer, what it will do is it will do another semantic search to a different database, smaller database, that it's still an embedded, it's a vector database, so it just contains embeddings. But this is something that we can create ourselves. We have a bunch of PDFs that we want to feed it into, HTML, text files, whatever. We have tools that can take those PDFs or whatever information we want to do and create this vector database for the RAG layer to search. There's some coding involved in creating that and all that, which is something that we're going to talk about today. So it'll do that, and it will, figure out this context window, right? Or what in AI terms, what they'd call the context window, and it'll take that and then it'll feed it to the LLM. And now when the LLM is doing its semantic search about all of these things that were, the contents of this, it has more information. It knows that, okay, this particular session is going to follow, is going to cover these topics. All right. So that's essentially what we're trying to achieve with RAGs, that you provide some custom information and avoid the retraining and combine the power of those two. Okay. And this is, of course, something we can do, custom GPT. I'm sure everybody in the audience has built at least one of these tools because it's very quick, right? So that's, of course, something that we can do. Now, the one that we're going to look at today has, one disadvantage that it's going to take a little bit more time. I think the custom GPT takes 5 minutes, right? But the one, our RAG actually will take a little bit longer, and you need a little bit of Python expertise. So it's not zero coding, but some of the key benefits, one is customization, right? So you can dictate exactly how you want that RAG to behave, which pieces of information you want to select and not select, and also incorporate agentic behavior in there if you like. Whereas with the existing tools, you're kind of restricted to whatever ChatGPT will allow you to do, right? The reasoning, you can orchestrate the reasoning, how much intelligence you want the AI to glean from your RAG database versus the actual knowledge base, right? And you can find those balances. Cost, this is important for our students. So if we do the custom GPT, of course, you have to have a professional account, and the students will also need to subscribe to one of the pro versions, right? And also there's limits to how many files you can upload. And so for a class type RAG, I think it's 512 meg might be enough, or 20 files might be enough. But for some of the other things that we want to do, like the text-to chatbot that we have, if we wanted to do that through the custom GPT, it probably wouldn't work because it's looking at a large, larger database. And of course, the other big thing is privacy. So this, the RAG database that this guy, right, this vector database can actually be on a TXST server, and that data never has to leave our network, right? So you have that added security. And I'm talking about like a free version, right? So, of course, for paid versions, we can also, there are contracts there. But this database, this data never has to leave there, and it never has to go and populate the knowledge base, right? So we can actually control that behavior. So I think that's also another important aspect. Let's see where we are. So, all right. So I'll do a quick demo of this Boko Buddy. So this is my computer architecture class, and we did this one, and this is hosted at Hugging Face. And so over here, you can ask questions like, "Hello, what will be covered on March 26th," right? So this is your typical AI tutor, but the difference is that this is AI tutor. That's our Boko Buddy, and so this is actually saying us, okay, March 26th, and this is actually what I'm going to cover this Thursday. Whereas the standard ChatGPT, of course, will say that, okay, I don't really know what's being covered there. And then you can go into, and this is, I think, more important for instructors. Tell me a little more about, let's say, structural hazards, let's say, right? And so the AI tutor is thinking, so Hugging Face, I'm using the free version of Hugging Face, so it's a little bit slow. So it comes up with this responses, right? And these are both, this is from computer architecture, so I don't, expect you to get into the details. But, these are both valid responses. The only thing is that in my lecture, there are certain things that I don't actually talk about with specific reason. When we're teaching, that's one of the things that we do. It's not like we take everything from the textbook and just plop it in there, right? So I actually talk about pipeline scheduling and not pipeline stalls, right? So the GPT, the standard GPT, picks up that information, which is a reasonable thing to do, but that's not what I want to cover in that particular lecture, right? So these this custom virtual TA actually gives me that control over that content that I wanted to actually pick up my stuff, compare it with its existing knowledge, and then calibrate the response. Okay. All right. So now we are going to try to build this tutor that we just saw from scratch. And for this, maybe I will share my entire screen to see how it works. Right. So I will share this. Let me minimize this thing. Let me minimize that as well for now. Okay. So you can see my entire desktop, right? So I created this folder for doing the demo. And so if you have a Mac with Xcode installed, you can follow along, all right? And so I'll go through this step. If you don't have Xcode installed, of course, it's going to take longer. So that might not necessarily work. Okay, so I will, so first I'll launch the terminal. So the Boko demo directory is where I'm going to build by RAG AI. And so I open a terminal in there. You can just take the folder and drag it onto your desktop if you have the terminal, and it'll open it there. Or you can, use the application and go CD into it. All right. So now I'm in Boko directory, and actually, you know what? All right. I forgot to share the QR code. Let me see if I have it here. Hang on. So the code, so all the supporting code that we're going to look at is, you can find it at this Git repo. This is the QR code for that. And so right now we're going to actually clone it into my local machine. This code is available on GitHub. And we're essentially going to talk about, the ingestion. So building any RAG is kind of these three steps. You first create the database. You ingest that into your LLM, into your RAG layer, and then you deploy. We're going to go through those three steps. All right. So let's go ahead. So make sure I'm in the correct directory, and I will clone my guy. And so this is the URL. I'm just using my terminal history to create that. And so the first thing I'll do is I'll clone the Boko Buddy into my directory. So it's got some PDFs, it's got some sample data, so it might take a little time to get to fetch everything. While we're waiting for that, okay, there we go. All right. So now I have the cloned directory code repository. And so this is my Finder view on the right. So Boko Buddy, that's the directory that was created. And so this is scaffolding code, right, that we built. So what we'll do is we'll go into that directory, right, with the CD temperature, CD command, and then run a setup script. Okay, so we created the setup script so that it's easier for you to install it. And what the setup script will do is it will create a virtual environment so that, and let me look at the message in the side. Thanks, Divya, for putting that link there. So it's going to create this virtual environment so that it doesn't, damage your system. So everything will be created, all the APIs, packages, and everything that you need will be, you can set it up when you type that bash setup.sh, right? And instruction for this is there in your GitHub as well. And when you exit the terminal, that virtual environment will be destroyed. So so the good thing is everything is protected on your system when you want to run this. But the bad thing is that, every time you'd need to, if you're using this virtual environment, you need to launch the virtual environment every time. Okay. All right. And so it's doing this. It should take about 1.5 minutes, I think, to do that. While it's doing it, I could take a quick question or two. And Joe, I'm sorry, I know I'm eating into your time. I'll finish in 5 minutes.
You're doing great. This is good stuff. I learn from you every time too. So just keep going. I'm soaking it up as fast as I can.
So,
All right.
Apan, quick question. In
Yes.
terms of the files, so now obviously you have the software framework in the Git, but it also has your particular lecture files, or when is
That's
the
right.
point? Yeah.
Yeah. So good point. So in the Git repository, right? So if you look at the Finder view here, in the Git repository, I just uploaded a few sort of sample files here that you can try out on your own if you're building it there, but it doesn't really have my lectures and so on, right? So some of the things are missing there. The So one of the things that you'd want to do is, based on your context, if you're building a virtual TA, you'd want to either, if you have all of your data on Canvas, we have another module that can fetch all of that data and put it in this directory structures. And I tried to be general, so mostly what we'll have is lectures, code, tutorials, textbook. You can actually include the textbook, which is what I have here. Of course, we need the permission from the publisher to include that in their labs or homework. And you can actually do it without having a directory structure. But directory structure is having that is helpful. And there are some strategies you need to follow in terms of chunking and so on. And, the chunks of data that the LLM is going to process, which I'm not getting into today, but the code actually has comments about which parameters to control to do the chunking size. One of the things that's helpful is creating this master calendar, which gives you the temporal anchor it lets the LLM know which topic is going to be covered on which day, and then when and what lecture files are associated with it, and so on. And I have instructions for creating this, and you can also, if you have a calendar already, there are scripts that can potentially generate this as well.
So, and I think, most of us have this type of structure in our Kilobyte or Canvas sites as well. But for the chunking, for the rec to do its job properly, it would be, and if we want to use, what you already built, it would be better if we also put our material into the provided templates. Like, for instance, I have an outline, right, which may not look like this template. So should I basically, even I can use an LLM for that, I guess, to put into this structure?
Yeah, it's really helpful for this structure because the primary key that the LLM uses, at least the one that I designed, is it looks at the file name first. Okay, where do I find the relevant content for this particular lecture? So, and then, for a given day, there might be multiple files associated with it, like I have here, but it's important to have this particular structure. Not that it's not going to work, but this is a little bit more efficient for the LLM to figure out what's being covered when and retrieving the information.
Okay, that's good to know.
All right, so I will stop this. Okay, so I have created this, and then now I will go in and do actually activate the environment, right? And it tells you, right? So we need to follow these 4 steps next. And so this is, now I'm in that virtual environment. So it says VM. So that's where I am. The next thing we have to do is get an OpenAI key. So I'm using GPT-4 here. It's a free version, but since I'm, querying that LLM via APIs, I need the key. If you're using Olama, and we have instructions for using Olama as well, then it's all local, and you wouldn't actually need a separate API key. We have instructions for how to get this. I guess most of us already have a key, OpenAI API key already, but if not, you can get it there. And so using this command, I'm putting the API key into my environment. All right. So now we're ready, and now we go. So we talked about the data ingestion part and all of that, data preparation part, and so now we'll do the actual ingestion. So we're taking all the data and put it into the RAG layer so the LLM can process it, and I'll just do the stuff that I have, and this is gonna. I should have actually done the demo stuff, but anyway. This is going to take a little bit of time, but while that's happening, we can maybe talk about some of the other stuff. Maybe I just pull up the code. The code itself is not that large. Okay, anyway, so it started doing this. So I have this debugging statement just to know that, to show that the chunk size, right? So for each, for different file formats, if it's just text data, it's doing it one way. If it's PDFs, it's doing it in another way. If it's PowerPoint, because we have figures and things like that, it's going to do it in the other format. And so this is some trial and error. I came up with this scheme, and but you can customize it. And really, the chunking is happening in which part of the code? The chunking is happening over here. So for the PowerPoint slides, the best approach is to do one node per slide, because most of the time we have information that's contained, right? A lot of information, summary information that's contained within a single slide. So this one works best, whereas for text, you'll need larger chunks. And for the textbook, it's again a little bit different. So textbook, I actually had to do quite a bit of this. This is the chunk size, and this is the overlap. I had to do some tuning to get reasonable responses. And so this is something that if you want to fiddle with the code, these are, and you have a textbook in there, this is probably something that you want to tune out. Tune, because for example, here, this chapter 3, for whatever reason, and we weren't able to figure out why it's doing that. Okay, all right. So now we have that, right? We have our the data has been ingested, and if we look at the database, this is the storage. This is the vector database that we were talking about. So it's got it's storing the data in JSON format, and these are all numeric data, not the actual text content or image content. And so we are all set to launch our app. And I did the front end using a Streamlit. So that's really the simplest. If you want to do fancy stuff, you can do other things. And so that's the last command that we need to run. And hopefully, I need to go one level up. And now we do it. And that's our Poco buddy. But this is the one we just created, right? Who are you? And this is running right now. It's running on my local machine on the Streamlit server. And so because I got stuff running on my local machine, it's taking a little bit longer, but there you go. So I'm an expert teaching assistant and all that. Okay, so this is the deployment for this. We also have in the Git repo, we also have instructions for deploying it on Hugging Face, the free version, which is fairly straightforward, which is where this guy is running. And we're also hoping that, Jeff at some point is going to give us some dedicated servers where we can run some of these chatbots and tutors. Okay, I will pause there. You have the QR code and all of that, and so please email me if you have questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Apan. One final question. So, other than yourself, was there any other colleague who was able to pick up your code and build on top of it, or how was that?
Yes. So there is one other person. I'm blanking on their name from business, Dr. Chi, I think.
Okay.
So he's been able to build it with his own material. I don't know if he's deployed it yet, but he's testing it out.
Perfect. 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 Thank you. We appreciate this. Our next speaker is Joe Fuller. So Joe, I don't know what you are planning to do today, but again, as you all know, basically we have a bunch of AI tools. Some of them are Rex, some of them are more general, I think. So Joe, maybe you can provide an overview demonstration. I think the tools discussion would follow nicely what Apan has described.
I appreciate the introduction. Yes, absolutely. Where Apan was giving you some really great advice on creation and exploration and expanding your skill sets with using AI. What I can do is I can show you a little bit about what Texas State is providing for you right now. Yes, we are working actually. I'm glad that Apan mentioned this. We are working on a lot of different things to help provide dedicated resources, additional resources, prioritize resources for AI training and creation, discovery. And of course, we've got a lot of work that we're doing for research itself to help provide those resources. I put a couple of links real quick in the chat just so that way you can have them and keep them. That's really the main point of when you go out to Texas State website and you're trying to figure out what's safe out there. What can I do? How can I do it? Can my students leverage it? What tools are already existing within Texas State so I don't have to worry about my data being used to train other people's models or my data that I'm working on that may be sensitive leaking out to somebody else. You don't want to have that happen, of course. In most situations, that's something you want to try to avoid. I'm going to share my screen here. Here we go. That's what I'm looking for. You have to be more persistent than the machine itself. Here's the Texas State AI Hub. This is one of the links that I sent to you in the chat. This one actually has a lot of the good general overview of what's out there, resources, some general things if you're new to AI, if you haven't used it, if you haven't been out there exploring a whole lot yet, or you're still growing and learning into it. You'll find there's a lot of great resources. When you're using and leveraging AI, especially if you're trying to find grants or doing other things, doing research out there, prompting is going to be one of your strongest skill sets that you want to develop. How you ask a question, what you're asking for, the details that you put into your requests when you're chatting with your chatbot, whether it be GPT, Perplexity, or whoever, you want to make sure that you're putting that right information in so you can get the most accurate information out to. And don't ever hesitate to ask the AI, whichever tool you're using, to make sure that they validate or provide you actual references to show that they have cited this work. This is real data, not a hallucination, that this is not made up information. It's important to make sure you've got those kind of resources at your fingertips. And a lot of these have been gained Kim was here with us for a very long time. She actually helped lead the last two AI symposiums, our inaugural one, and then our second one this year, another huge turnout there. And she, as well as some of the other team members here, put together a lot of resources for you for what's going on, how do you prompt, some different things that may make things a little bit easier. Yes, they are alphabetized to try to make it a little quicker when you're going out there and looking for these things. I definitely invite you guys to explore, see what's out here, leverage the tools that are here. These are available for the students too as well, so they can learn from what's out there as well. The actual tools that we have here at Texas State that we're providing right now is the Perplexity. We have a trial, so basically a trial subscription or trial license for Perplexity. So there may be some changes coming up in the next few months on that, but right now you can still leverage it. It's a great tool. It's one that I've leveraged personally for a lot of different things, especially if I'm looking for cited references on documentation, verifying that some of my data is actually correct too as well. You have the Copilot web chat, Axe. The Ask Texas State bot was something that was developed and created. The Texas State University system has one now too. This is also done in conjunction with IT, and AWS actually helped us with the creation, development, and the testing of those products there. Recently, we've provided now Gemini. It's a pilot that we've opened up for Gemini, as well as Notebook LM. Notebook LM for teaching is an incredible resource for those students when they're out there trying to disseminate information in different forms. So they want to learn, they want to take quizzes, etc., to help them better dissect and get into this information. For example, if Dr. Qasem would give me the PowerPoint slide in one of the lectures, what I would do is I would go out to Notebook LM and put that information in there, and I'd probably be asking a lot of different questions. I have a different way of learning, just like almost everybody else does. We all have unique ways and styles of learning and being able to retain information. This is a tool that helps me do it visually as well as auditory and everything else. I can go out there and really dig into a lot of those tools. The policies bot was actually the first one that we created here at Texas State, and that's also available, but that's specifically for the UPPSs. So if you go out there and you're looking for one of the university policies, this is a quick way to identify those policies. So if you have any questions about something that you're running up against, you can go out there and look, say, is there a policy out there? Is there some guidelines to help me? That's a great bot that's actually been developed for you. IT security has done a lot of work to make sure that we're safe too as well. The general principles, and I say this to everybody because I get asked this question all the time. If I put some information in there from one of my papers that I'm working on, or if I've got some research and I need to get some data and I want to do some things with it in AI, is it safe? I will tell you, if you have anything that is confidential or anything else, pause, hesitate, and think about where you're at and what you're doing. If you're logging in with your personal email, that could be subject to whatever the use case is out there for those bots or those chat GPTs and other things. They might use that information to help train their models. They could even have that information out there where somebody else is going to gather it. When AI started really kicking up a couple of years ago, well, probably even within the last 18 years, one of the first things that happened in the world out there in public was people were chatting with ChatGPT and OpenAI about the problems they're having in life. Oh, I'm feeling so sad today. What do I do? They were interacting with it like it was almost like a therapist, if you want to kind of diagnose it in that way. And the problem with things like this is when they were going out there and doing this, all this information was actually being captured and saved and logged and used to help train the AI so it could get smarter and learn from it. There's situations where some of that information could very easily be accessed by other people and you don't even realize it. So you're going to be careful about what private information you share in a public forum. If you're logging in with your NetID, you know you're in one of the Texas state entities. That's a good thing because that way we can safeguard that information. That information is not being leveraged to help develop the tool or train it or make it smarter or anything else. You go into Google Gemini, Google is not using your data to train it as long as you're logged in with your NetID. Very important. Make sure you're logging in with your net ID. And you've already got it. It's already there. It recognizes who you are with your at texasstate.edu login. It's there. It's ready to go. Just make sure you're being responsible. I am going to actually show you Notebook LM a little bit here that I have been playing with. I was developing some slides and things for Matt Hall, our CIO, for the Digital Humanities Town Hall that recently was hosted by Dr. Shriek. And he actually leveraged those slides for his little conversation to share a little bit about IT perspectives and some other things. I took those 2 or 3 generated slides that we had and put it into Notebook LM as a resource. I can dump documents, I can put websites, I can do all kinds of things in this section over here. I can go out and look at certain things in the web, even my Google Drive, because this is a Google product. Then I can come over here and ask questions about it all day long. So if this is content, if this is maybe some of my research and I'm trying to figure out what's the best angle to go at, I can do those kind of things. One of the things I've already done here for you, for an example, is I created a data table from what those slides had. From that, it automatically created categories, details. It picked up on responsible personnel, who's responsible for what type of process or product. Talking about, oh yeah, this is just one of the small things that it can do, but this does it for everything. One of my favorite things, and I know I've seen some of you in here use them before, the mind maps. If I want to come in here and look at what are the challenges for our HPC utilization, I can actually pop this up right here. It's already analyzing that information that it knows about what I've told it so far. And from the resources that I provided, it's already talking about what our saturation zone is, the utilization, what we're getting towards, with the process of how many people are using it, potential bottlenecks, strategically, what we got to worry about, some of the concerns that I may have. These are neat little insights that it's been able to provide for me. I can even ask it certain questions and get it to create visualizations. This is an example of what one of those slides looked like at that Digital Humanities Town Hall if you were able to join. This is an example of what's going on right now with the HPC and our AI strategic path as we talk about what's going to happen over the next 5 to 6 years. Like, the minute you stop thinking about something, you already got left behind because AI is moving that fast right now. And I actually created a little PowerPoint slide presentation from the data that was in here. Realize this is actually not the stuff that you probably want to go out and I would be sharing right away without going through and editing and things like this. This is completely generated by Notebook LM, but I found it very interesting what it perceived, what it diagnosed and gathered from the data that I shared with it. And I didn't tell it to go out to the public websites. I didn't tell it to go to texasstate.com. It's only using those 4 or 5 pages that I provided for it. And from that, it created a very large PowerPoint presentation with some very interesting insights, making me question some of the things that I was thinking about too, going, how is this really working? This is actually similar to one of the slides that was actually shown at the town hall too as well. Talking about what resources are out there and what I'm here to help you guys with when it comes to research. Kevin Hufker is a good partner of mine. He actually is working on a lot of the strategies and policies and securities for the academic side of things, while I focus more heavily on the research, infrastructure, and those kind of things for you all. But these are just some examples I wanted to show and share with you about what can happen, what can you do, what can students do. This is all already accessible. Log in with your net ID and it's all there. You'll find out the more information you provide it, the smarter it gets. It's like what Apan was talking about with the RAG, right? It has to have information to learn from and information to pull from to get you data out. How you ask those questions, those prompts I talked about earlier, is how you're going to get the best data out of it as well too. I know we're getting towards the end here, but I wanted to open it up and find out what concerns and questions that you all have in the day-to-day now. What are some of your questions, your queries? You've got a bunch of experts here. Let's find out what you're curious about and what you want to know and see if we can help you.
Right. And Joe, I think Nate already has put a question, and I don't know, Nate, if you want to speak up or should I read your question?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, and thank you. That's a great question.
Yeah, so I actually I had a class yesterday and I taught my students everything you're just showing, and I had them all set up their own notebook LMs and everything. And,
Awesome.
I built some of my own and I wanted to connect it to Google Docs and other things. But the issue I ran into is when I'm logged in to the Texas State version of the instance of a notebook LM, I can't connect to my personal Google Drive stuff. And then when I said, okay, well, maybe I'll just create some stuff using my Texas State, unless I was doing it wrong, it was locking me out and saying, no, Texas State doesn't support Google Drive connections.
So
Is
being the fact that this is a very common question that comes up, I've got a couple of strategies here for you. One, yes, today on the Texas State side for Notebook LM, Gemini, things like that, we don't have Google Sheets or any of those licenses you can get. But that partner of mine, Kevin Huffer, I was talking about, is working with our team over here to actually see what we can do about expanding those offerings. There's been a lot of requests for things from the Google products. Microsoft's not going anywhere, so don't think that's happening. It's not going anywhere. OneDrive, all that stuff is still here. But if you're wanting to leverage some of the other additional Google products, keep your ears open for what's coming for the Texas State side of provided things. Now, I too like to leverage Gemini a lot because I've challenged GPT, Gemini, Claude, and a bunch of others. I stack them up next to each other, ask the same prompts with the same data, and try to see what resources or how they respond back to me so I can learn kind of what that AI, the train of thought or the process that it uses to come up with the answers. What I do is I have two different browsers open. I'll have two different sessions of Chrome open. One session I'll log into my personal email with the Google information, and the other one I can log in with my Texas State, knowing that's behind the security that we
yeah,
have.
that's I do the same thing there.
Yeah, that's the one workaround that has been most effective so far. Outside of
Well,
you
it's
taking data and dumping it into, well, for example, connect it with your Canvas, maybe even through links, and embed, and you might be able
so
to do that as well.
you can notebook LM directly to Canvas, kind of through like a like a backdoor API or something,
No,
or
not quite like that yet. Canvas has its own AI built into it, but what I found helpful is I'll embed the code because I've written several courses in Canvas now, and I'll put links and things like that inside of my course, my modules and pages for the students and other people that are learning. And one of the things I do like to do is I'll do it like an embed code, or I'll create a little bit.ly shortened web URL for them to launch the actual program, because I want everybody to also be able to experience their Notebook LM like they will individually so they can learn in their styles and their format and be able to reference all those documents. The AI inside of Canvas actually has access to your information in your course. So that's already there set up for you internally. There's a it's busy world. There's so much going on. It's like if you looked at a beehive farm, a honey farm, right? All the bees are going everywhere. You may have one queen. So we have one Texas State University, but there are so many things that are happening out in the public side of things, the private side of things, and then the Texas State agreement licensing side of things. And it's constantly moving and changing. I can tell you, IT, we're committed to making sure that we communicate with you all as things progress. So as things get closer to happening and changes come or additional resources are made available, we're going to get those out to you. We are also committed, and we got a new team that's actually focused on trying to provide some additional training on how to use AI, how to leverage it, how to do it maybe a little bit differently with the things that we offer here already behind that licensing security.
sure. And maybe just, I know we're almost out of time, but just a quick context for why I was looking for that, because in case there's another workaround. Because when you put materials into Notebook LM, they're static, right? But if you connect something like a Google Doc, that's a dynamic living document. I've been working on building automations that will like summarize my research Zoom calls, and then it'll dump it into a living Google Doc, which then gets fed into the Notebook LM or something like that. That
Okay.
kind of reduces some of the friction of doing that manually. So, anyways, if there was some way to connect that, would kind of grease the wheels a little bit. So,
Yeah.
It's
There's
okay. You don't
some,
have to answer it
no,
now.
well, I
Just
was
a
going to
little
say, because there's
context of
so many
what,
different ways to do it. I'll tell you, Matt Hall's got some interesting things that he does. He has his own blog. He has pages out there and things like that that he's leveraged and used that are dynamic and change. Those links to those things are live links to a URL that actually is updated whenever he's updating that content. It's already there live and it's going. So every time that you ask that prompt or question, it's actually revisiting that site again to look for it, find it, and review it. I use it a lot for the Texas State sites because we're constantly changing our content out there. Research is always updating the rules and what's happening out there with NSF and everything else. I will constantly tell the AI, go to this link specifically. I want you to go look at this and tell me what's going on with X, Y, or Z, or provide me this data, or summarize this information for me that I can communicate to somebody that maybe is not in the same field of study I'm in. Those are things that I've leveraged to help within that. The notebook LM slides, I wanted to address Apan's question before we slip out of here. What's really neat is all I did was click the actual button that says slides. It did it all by
Wow.
itself. I didn't have to do a single thing. It has the content. I could give it a website. I could do whatever I want to. It pops that out. And it only takes a few seconds. It's that
Right.
fast because while you were demonstrating, I created about 4 or 5 different. I created actually everything you saw there was created
Uh-huh.
during your presentation.
Wow.
All, and
No,
that's
I really like the
not including
aesthetics of it.
perplexity. I've
Yeah.
been doing too. Yeah,
Very cool.
I've been making sure I've been reviewing a white paper that I've been working on for the high performance computing over here, and I've actually been editing and doing some things with perplexity with it while we're doing this too. That's how many different functions you could do at once with AI. It's insane how much power it gives you to use and really find the little things, the things that most people we skim right over the top. I'm dyslexic, so I'll tell you right now, the way I read, I have to read things 3 or 4 times before it really hits me hard. So being a very visual learner and kinetic learner, I like to be able to go and get my hands dirty and actually hear a story. If I hear it as a story or some type of, I create your conversations in my head like a movie. So I can go back and review and play that movie over and over and over again, and I get all that content. I don't lose anything. And the context comes out a little bit better because I can adjust the theme depending on what you're really trying to get across. So if I'm playing a Western in my head and you're talking about sci-fi, I know I'm in the wrong lane. I got to switch gears and catch up with you. But yeah, all those notebook LM tools are just like that.
Well, yeah, perfect. I guess we are at 102, so to be respectful of everyone's time. So first, let me thank you both, Apan, Joe. I mean, you are a big part of obviously what's happening at Texas State in data and AI realms. So we appreciate what you are doing every day, and your time describing, some of the projects. And I guess overall, just to recap. Like Apan in one of Apan's slides, it was about the trade-offs, right? So you can use the existing AI tools, most of them work great. But if you want a little bit more customization with a little bit of basically on-hands effort, you may also get to a more customized tool. So I'm glad that we were able to see both sides, both in racks. And maybe we can try to do one more of these, maybe in a form of a workshop, so we can also give folks more hands-on time, especially with agentic AI, because I think that's the area that I keep getting the questions about. Everyone wants to get started, but we may, through the center and through IT, provide those opportunities. But overall, this was great, and thank you all for joining and for your time. Again, keep the questions coming, right? This is not a one and done. Obviously, tools are changing, and methods are changing. So let us know how we can help you overall.